Do you remember the days where you were just playing video games with your friends? Every single time you would play, you would say you're gonna play for 1 hour, then you're gonna get back to work. So you load up the game, you're laughing, you're playing with your friends, right? But what seems like 1 minute has just gone by, you check the time and now it's 5 PM. You've played for like 4 hours. Well, imagine if it was the same for our work. Imagine if we could literally get into this state where 1 minute feels like 4 hours. Imagine how good your life would be. Imagine the results you would get towards your goals if you could literally get that amount of output every single day. And just like video games, the work actually seems fun to you. You love doing it, so you get into this intense flow where you can just work all day. Well, I believe I've actually managed to find out how to do this. And if you can just give me 7 minutes of your time and show you how I did this myself, what I've put into my life, I guarantee it will benefit your life. See, I'm in my martial arts class, I'm dodging, I'm weaving, and even though it seems like I'm doing so good, I'm beating this opponent, right? I'm actually so scared because the guy I'm fighting is the best in the club. This guy basically runs the club, he's the owner of the club. So I'm basically sparring the leader, right? I'm sparring the final boss. And I remember distinctly, I just like blocked a punch. And I remember I did a high crescent kick. And if you don't know anything about martial arts, you're probably like, what the hell is this kid on about, right? But a crescent kick is basically like a round kick mixed with a front kick. And I managed to get this over his shoulder. He missed the block. And I managed to catch him right in the side of his head. And I was terrible at martial arts at that point. My kicks were terrible, my punches were terrible, I was super slow, I was super like stiff, right? So me landing that kick was like a 1 in 100 chance. But anyway, the reason why I managed to actually do good against the leader, the boss of this club, right, is simply because I tapped into the flow. But this flow exists in every single realm in life. This exists in video games, this exists in your business. But I managed to tap into this flow state, and that allowed me to do really good against this opponent. My focus was locked onto this guy, so I knew where he was going to punch. I knew if he was going to fake me, so I could block it, right? And I've managed to tap into this flow in all areas of my life. For example, with my business, I can focus for hours at a time without getting distracted. And I know for a fact, if you tap into this flow state, you will destroy every single one of your competition, because no one is doing this. Everyone is looking for the productivity tactic, you know, what's going to change their life, but no one is in the flow. And this is the one reason why they aren't productive. This is one reason why they keep on putting off that business work and they don't actually enjoy their life. So just before I go into the framework that I've used over like many months now to get into a flow, I just want to say, if you want to get access to a ton of free resources, to get personal advice from me, click the first link in the description to join my Discord community, alright? I want to show you exactly why most people can't get into a flow and the reason why they aren't productive. And this reason is because of people's environments. You've heard this millions of times. You've heard me talk about perfecting your environment. You've heard other people talk about perfecting your environment. And maybe you've tried these tactics, you know, perfect your digital environment, but nothing is working. Every single time you try to focus on your business, you keep on getting distracted. You aren't getting towards your goals as fast as you want to. Well, the first thing I want to say, and this is something I read from a book, Hyper Focus, I forgot the author, but I highly recommend reading this book, because one of the concepts that is talked about in this book is something called the attentional space. And this attentional space is basically everything that holds on maximum focus. So for example, right now, this video is in your attentional space. Hopefully it is, and you haven't got like millions of tabs open. Maybe you've got music in the background, and that is taking up a portion of your attentional space. Well, to basically make it super simple and easy for you to understand, if you want to get into a flow state, all we need to do is make the task or the thing we're trying to do fill out this attentional space, because there's nothing holding our attention other than that one thing. And that means our brain will get so locked in. Like I'll tell you at the start, when I was sparring this person, I was doing so well. It's because I was in a flow state. And this leads me on to my first point, which is destroying all the distractions that can stop you from getting into a flow or take up the part of your attentional space. So what I want you to do is a little exercise. I want you to just think or write down all the distractions that normally happen when you're trying to work. So this can be YouTube, this can be video games, this can be that one friend that keeps on messaging you on like WhatsApp or something. Whatever distraction comes to mind when you're trying to work or you're trying to do one habit, I want you to just think for a second. You probably haven't tried this before, so just leave me here. Think of a solution or something that could stop that thing from distracting you ever again. So for example, I did this a couple of months ago, and back then I really struggled with like a YouTube addiction. I really struggled with going on YouTube when I'm trying to work, right? So what I did, I was like, how can I get rid of this YouTube distraction? How can I actually focus better? And my brain kept on coming to the same conclusion, which was to install a website blocker. I would already heard about this, but I didn't consciously think on how to actually solve this issue. And as soon as I installed that website blocker, I was able to focus so much better. And if you're wondering what this website blocker is, it's something called Unhook, and it basically just turns YouTube into a blank page. But the point is, every single distraction you're facing has a way to get rid of it, because every single problem has a solution. And I don't really want to give you like a specific answer to this, because every single person watching this video has different levels and different distractions that take up their focus. So just think, or maybe you can search on Google, on like Reddit or something, how can I get rid of this specific distraction and stop it from distracting me from my work? And just to add to this, there's a software that I use called Rise, and this software is basically designed to really improve your focus, and it's like AI based. And what it does, one of my favorite features about it, is it allows you to go into these focus sessions. And when you go into this focus session, if you go into like YouTube, or you go into like a social media or some kind of distraction, right, it basically covers the screen and just tells you to get back to work. And every single time that used to happen to me, I would just instantly go back to work because I've regained consciousness. So what I'll do is I'll leave a link to this software that you can install. So I really recommend picking this up, alright? Now that's the first part. This was all about destroying distractions. And for this next part, it's going to be something much more important, alright? Because right now we've got rid of all the distractions. We've maximised our chances of getting to a flow. But most of the time when we're trying to work, the work isn't fun. So even though we've got all these systems in place to stop us from going on YouTube, we find ourselves getting rid of the web extension. We find ourselves closing all the systems down just to get that dopamine from, you know, YouTube or video game. But this is kind of the next problem most people struggle with, and if you want to solve this, we need to make the work the most stimulating thing in our environment. In other words, we need to make it fun, or a thing we enjoy. And this is my secret to working for longer hours, because, you know, I put so much time into YouTube, I put so much time into my studies, right? And the only reason I've been able to do that is because I find it fun, I find it enjoyable. And this is why there's no resistance stopping me from working. And if you know anything about copywriting, I used to do copywriting back in the day, like the glory days of Harry's Law, right? Honestly, if I got £1 for every single time I mentioned copywriting in my videos, I would be rich right now. But one of the things I learned in copywriting is one of the biggest motivators that actually gets people to take action is making something easy, or making it actually worthwhile. And if we want to get our brains to focus, or we want to actually take action on something consistently, we need to make it easy. And the way we make it easy is by making it comfortable. We make it enjoyable for the human brain to experience. So for example, I always work with some kind of sound in the background. I work with ambience, I work with like, I don't know, some sound, right? Not really lyrical music, because that distracts me. But I also find a lot of fulfillment from the work I do. And because of that, I find myself always going to do work. So I believe one of the biggest ways you can actually make the work enjoyable is by just like thinking like, what do you normally find hard about the work? Is there a particular thing you find hard, like, I don't know, scripting a video? Or maybe you find studying or doing that one past paper really hard when you're trying to study. Well, if you can find a way to make it easy, for example, you put on like music in the background, maybe you reward yourself after you've done the work, you will be more likely to do it. So that's the second part of this framework. I want you to realize that if you want to get into this flow state, you need to make sure the work is the most stimulating thing and it's easy for your brain to take action on. Now, the last part of this framework is pretty short, but I just wanted to mention this because it's so important. And basically what it is to routinely check in on your attentional space, because every single deep work session you have, you're always going to lose focus. It's just a matter of time. But the reason why I've been able to get so much done, and like these millionaire entrepreneurs, these, you know, A-level students get so much done, is because they routinely check and they redirect their attention back onto the thing they're focusing on. So when you're working, or maybe like set a 1 hour timer and just like ask yourself, what's in your attentional space? What is taking up your attention right now? If it's just your work, then great, carry on. But if it's something like YouTube, if it's something like social media, if it's something like video games, you need to cut that out and just remind yourself that the work is way more important than this other thing that's distracting you. So that was a 3-step framework. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And like I said at the start of the video, if you want to get access to a ton of free resources, get personal advice from me, click the first link in the description to join my free community. Goodbye, have a nice day. You'll get Elman in the face again. Goodbye. Whoa!